Now let's talk about holding the bow. But first I want to clear up a couple terms. You'll hear me refer to this as a bow hold, or you might hear some people call it a bow grip. But really, neither of those terms are correct. It's definitely not a bow grip because you're not gripping the stick. It's not really even a bow hold because you're not holding the bow up or supporting it at all. What it really is a bow balance. You're just balancing the bow on top of your thumb and controlling that balance with your fingers. So think of the thumb as the fulcrum and your fingers are what's controlling this plank. So it's a bow balance, not a bow hold or a bow grip. So now let's talk about how to form our bow hold. So what I want you to do is hold the bow with your left hand in the upper or middle half, just to hold the bow horizontal. And we're gonna hold the bow with our right hand. That's the hand that holds the bow. And we're gonna form our bow hold right here on this part of the stick, just for now. We're gonna move it down to where it needs to be. But for now, I want you to form your bow hold right here. And what you're gonna do is I want you to get your right hand really relaxed. So kind of shake it out, make sure there's no tension in there. And you're gonna flop your fingers up on the stick, and the stick's gonna contact your fingers right about where that middle knuckle is. So let's try it. So shake it out, get it really relaxed, and just flop it up there. Let all your fingers hang. And hopefully what you have is a really natural spacing here. And this is why I like forming the bow hold all at once. If you try to do one finger at a time, you tend to get this really unnatural, uncomfortable spacing, which you don't want. You want very natural, very relaxed. So there's pretty much an even space in between each finger. That's what you want. So now what you're going to do is take your pinky and put it on top. Now you're going to take your thumb and you're going to put it underneath the stick, and it's going to go about in between the middle and index fingers. Okay? And you're going to balance that bow on your thumb, and the bow is kind of rest on that inner part of your thumb right there. So it's going to have a little bit of a curve in it. You definitely don't want it to look like that, where you're trying to balance the bow on the fleshy part of the thumb. It's just going to balance on that inner part right there, kind of right next to the nail. So that's where you're balancing your thumb, and all the other fingers are hanging over nice and relaxed like that. Now, when you're forming your bow hold like this, you hopefully have this natural spacing, which is what we want, but you might have tended to get something unnatural going on over here because I wanted you to flop up and get really relaxed and loose. And generally what happens when people do that is you have this really slope down here because your arm's pretty relaxed and your fingers are just hanging off the bow. So we don't want to play violin like this. This is going to cause some tension and some issues. So we always want kind of a natural curve. You never want sharp angles like this when you're playing. So what you want to do is kind of lift up your wrist here. And what you really want is your elbow and your wrist to be more or less level or flat. And then the fingers are just curving down after you have that flat wrist. So you never want the fingers above the wrist because then you are trying to support the bow, which you don't want. So you want the wrist up and you want the bow really just dangling from your fingers and balancing on your thumb right there. Now you can do a couple tests to make sure that you're not gripping or squeezing. And one of the things you can do is just take your left hand and just slide the bow back and forth. And hopefully it just slides along on your thumb there and the fingers on top are just allowing the bow to slide gently back and forth. All right. Now I suggest you practice this quite a bit, forming it on the stick, trying to get loose and relaxed, making sure your wrist up here is flat and even with your elbow. And you can also do this a lot on a pencil. It works the same way. It's actually a little bit easier because you don't have this very large stick to kind of deal with. You just have a smaller pencil. So try that a lot on the pencil and right here on the bow hold. But now let's talk about forming our bow hold down here at the frog where it's supposed to be when you play. So what you want to do is form it right here again. Make sure you're nice and relaxed. And all you're going to do is take your left hand, pull the bow to the left, and hopefully that's going to make your hand just slide down. And let it slide down until your thumb hits this part of the frog right here. So your thumb's going to be in between the leather grip and the frog. That's where it's going to be. Now this feels a little awkward to some people because you're feeling the leather grip on the inside of your thumb, and you're also feeling the tip of your frog kind of on the fleshy part of your thumb. And that's what you want. Again, you've got a gentle curve here. You're not trying to support it like that. Just a gentle curve, just the way you would kind of normally hold your hand if your hand was by your side. That's really what you want. Now in front, we've got an equal spacing in between all the fingers. And the pinky is on top. So you may need to trim your pinky fingernail to help it stay on top. You want the fleshy part of the finger touching the stick, not the nail getting in the way. Same thing with your thumb. You might need to trim that nail to make sure the nail isn't touching the grip or interfering with how your thumb is holding the bow there. Now, a couple little fine tips here. I know I said put the pinky on top, but as you move it down to the stick, to the frog I mean, you may put it actually to the side. This is on the inside, closer to your body. And you may notice that your bow has octagonal panes. So I just place my pinky kind of on the pane closest to me. And what that allows me to do is it allows me to have horizontal control over the bow as well as vertical control. So the pinky is very important. He actually controls the bow quite a bit. So try to put that pinky gently curved, kind of on that inside pane. One more tip for forming your bow hold is that you can actually kind of lean the fingers so that they are leaning towards the tip just a little bit. So you don't necessarily want them straight up and down, but just a little bit of a lean is good. And that should give you a nice relaxed bow hold. Now this takes a lot of time to work towards getting relaxed. So I want you to practice this a lot and just always kind of work for it being as relaxed as you can, no unnatural angles, everything kind of even and gently curved, and you're just thinking about balancing that bow.